He's known as the torso killer. Richard Cottingham was convicted in the murders of 5 young women, and now from behind bars, he's confessing to another one.
He claims he was very strategic, that he would cluster them, that he would never leave a fingerprint behind.
This is Uncovered. Richard Cottingham, the so-called torso killer, he's also known as the Times Square killer, has been in prison since 1980. He was convicted of brutally killing 5 young women. For years, Cottingham has been saying that he actually killed between 80 and 100 women in New York and New Jersey in the 1960s and 70s. Cottingham says he didn't even know the names of many of his victims, making it nearly impossible for police to do any investigative work or get a conviction in these cases. But there's been one man who's been dedicated to getting Cottingham, who's now 79 years old, in prison and ailing, to confess to as many of these murders as possible. The reason for that is to give these victims' families a sense of knowing who was responsible for killing their loved one. Because of the tireless work of historian Peter Vronsky, Cottingham has just admitted to another murder. He says he was the one who killed 18-year-old Alice Eberhardt in September 1965 in her home in New Jersey. She was bludgeoned and stabbed to death. Police in New Jersey recently announced that they did interview Cottingham in prison about this incident, and that Cottingham was able to provide them information about this murder that was not publicly known, which basically told them that he most likely was the person responsible for killing Alice Eberhardt. So they did take his confession. Peter, tell me about your relationship with Richard Cottingham. I mean, it's definitely a unique one.
Cottingham calls me every day. I've probably recorded by now maybe 700 hours of conversations with Cottingham on the phone, because all my personal visits were interrupted when the pandemic hit in 2020. So from January of 2020, I didn't see Cottingham until last June. He's in the palliative program. He's paralyzed. He cannot move. He's got kidney disease. He's got advanced necropathy of the legs. He's in terrible condition. And every, I guess twice a year, there's a crisis that he survives. You know, he's rushed to emergency and he comes back alive. It's just a miracle that he's still alive. And that's the pressure as well that I'm feeling, and a lot of victim families who have contacted me with suspicions that maybe that Cottingham had murdered somebody in their family. And a few of those have panned out, and I've been working with those families. You know, they're desperate that police interview Cottingham and either clear him or incriminate him in the claims that he's making.
And what is he claiming?
He claims that he was very strategic in these 85 to 100 murders. He says 85 to 100, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. He claims he was very strategic, that he would cluster them, that he would never leave a fingerprint behind. He was very attuned to tire tracks, to all the you know, he was forensically aware. For example, he strangled, drowned, smothered, and stabbed some of his victims. So in the old days, you know, if a victim was strangled but another one was stabbed, police would say, "Oh, it's a different perpetrator." And so none of those cases were connected until the 2000s.
I mean, how does he not know anything about these victims? I mean, he allegedly killed them, but he doesn't know anything about them?
He doesn't know. He doesn't, because he acted spontaneously. He doesn't know. Only in one case he knew the victim's name. Otherwise, he doesn't even know where he perpetrated these crimes. He generally knows. For example, let's take the murder of Jackie Harp in Midland Park, 1968, July. He was driving around aimlessly, and he drove into Midland Park without knowing he was in Midland Park, and he got thirsty, and he stopped for a root beer. When he was having the root beer, Jackie Harp walked by on her way home from marching band practice at her school. He saw her through the window of the steward's root beer place, followed her, and forced her into the bushes and murdered her. She was dead within 15 minutes, maybe even less, 10 minutes of him seeing her. He never knew her name. He never knew the town.
So why do you believe him?
Why do I believe him?
Yeah.
Because those cases, the ones that he claimed, have been subsequently confirmed.
Why has he told you he committed these murders? I mean, what's the motive?
He doesn't know. He has no insight into himself. The closest he comes to giving a motive is it was fun. It was a challenge to get away with it. He would act on impulse. He didn't stalk his victims or target them like the BTK killer, for example. He didn't keep newspaper clippings. Contrary to media reports, he did not keep trophies. That whole thing about him having a trophy room in his house is total nonsense.
So in terms of what's official, Cottingham was convicted in 5 murders. He's confessed to 15 others. But not every police department has formally accepted these confessions, which is why you've been pushing these police departments, correct?
Because, Cottingham is dying, guys. Get this done. Go see him. All I can say is there's enough probable cause for detectives to go down and interview them. They have the case files. I don't. I don't have access to their case files, so I don't know what they know. But it's up to them now to just take the day, go interview them with the case file, and you decide whether you think Cottingham can be incriminated and negotiate a cold case closure with him, or just clear the guy and say it's not Cottingham. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And why would a detective not want to close the case? It doesn't make sense. It would be good for their career. A cold case closure on your career is a good thing.
So why do you do this? Is it, number one, because you want these victims' families to know who killed their loved one? Or is it, number two, that you think Cottingham should be convicted of these crimes?
No, it's only one, victim families. Cottingham has been made accountable. The guy he's got 4 life sentences, and then he's got another 300 years to serve once he finishes serving all 4 life sentences, consecutively, by the way, not concurrently. He is never getting out of prison. Nobody needs a conviction.
Thank you, Peter. Please keep us in the loop.
You too. Take care.
You may be thinking, why wouldn't law enforcement just go and talk to Richard Cottingham in prison? It doesn't hurt anything. Well, it's complicated. Number one, Richard Cottingham is asking for immunity, meaning he does not want to be formally charged in these murders. Giving immunity is not something that law enforcement and prosecutors just give out freely. It is not easy to get immunity. So that's not something that these law enforcement officers are going to agree to just right off the bat. And that goes to the second complicating factor. Prosecutors want convictions. I mean, a confession is great, but a conviction goes on your scorecard. It's essentially like getting an A+. And so if prosecutors aren't going to get a conviction, they're less likely to want to keep investigating a case. What I would urge here is for prosecutors and police officers to remember that part of their job is getting closure for families. So if the man wants to talk, go there, talk to him, see if his story makes sense based upon what you know of the investigation, and do it quickly before Richard Cottingham dies and you no longer have the opportunity. For more true crime stories with depth, accountability, and impact, visit Us Weekly's YouTube channel or go to uncoveredwithkristenthorne.com.